So in this space, does it really pay? Does social media really pay?
I would say to you 1000% it does. I wish I could whip up my phone and show you. Literally just publishing stuff on Facebook, which is literally just news. He's blogging and he does not post videos, just images and text.
Okay.
And if you look at it, I think he's making maybe about $300-400 a month or something because his page has been monetized and he's trying to make something small.
Okay.
But the point I'm trying to make is, see the first one, $78 for a post. There's another $46 for one single post, $41 for one single post, $36 for one single post, $20 for one single post, just like that.
I've seen that you've been on international platforms, BBC. Did you think you could have just ended here?
I think at the start, if I'm being honest with you, I just wanted to feed.
Okay.
And then one time I get a call saying, "Hey, is this Arrey?" I'm like, "Okay, yes, this is Arrey. It's so and so from the BBC." I'm like, "Hold up, this is a lie. Oh no, you guys are joking."
Welcome to another edition of the King Obed podcast. In today's episode, there is a big man, and he's all over the social media space. He's taking dominance over the social media space, and he'll be sharing with us his journey from the start, what motivated him up to this point, the way forward for him, the things he's been able to establish, and the people he's been able to train from the start of his journey up to this time, and the influence and the impact he's making in his generation. He is no other person than a Cameroonian journalist, an entrepreneur, and also an author of a life-changing book in the person of Arrey Bate. Arrey, welcome to the King Obed podcast.
Thank you very much, King Obed. Really, really excited to be here with you.
Yes, that is great. That is great. I'm also excited to have you on board. And yes, I've been following you, the things you are doing, the impact you are making, everything. I must say that, yes, carry on. You are impacting lives. You are impacting generation yet to come and those here already. So you came into this space all by yourself. How has the journey been right from when you got the idea of getting into the social media space? How has the journey been right from when you decided to start this journey?
Right. So a bit of my journey, and by the way, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. And to everyone listening to this, I want to promise you, I'm going to share with you nothing but the truth. But most importantly, some really good secrets that you can use to build your life, to build yourself. Because at least I know a thing or two on the internet space, which I've been able to implement and being able to connect with people, and also at least make a little bit of it, which helps me support myself and my family. So just a bit of my journey. I came into the space pretty much. So let's back forward. When I was going to study in the university, so I moved to a city a city in Cameroon called Boya. Now, when I got to Boya, at the time when I was in my second year of the university, I started thinking to myself, I was studying journalism and mass communication. So I'm asking myself, how do I even try and make sure that this journalism that I'm studying, how do I even start implementing it and learning some things? And just around that same time was the same moment when we had a crisis in Cameroon. So with the crisis in Cameroon, for those of you who might have an idea, the crisis, there was a lot of gunshots. There was a lot of people had to stay indoors. You don't have to step out. And so during this time, I'm thinking to myself, what's the way to survive? How do I even start to make things happen for me? So I went out, first things first, I went to the newspaper kiosk, right? When I go out to the newspaper kiosk, I write down the names. I say to the person who controls the kiosk, I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, I don't have some money, but what I want you to do for me is just let me copy down the names of the newspaper publishers. And I just want to, he's like, what do you want to do with them? I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm just doing a project for school. I lied to him, so I'm doing a project for school or something. And he let me copy down the names of these publishers. For those of you who know newspapers, there's always a page in the newspaper called the masthead. The masthead is a page that has information about the publisher, the different branches of the newspaper, and also their contacts. So I was saying to him, let me look into this masthead so that I'm going to write down these names of these publishers and their contacts and emails. And that's exactly what I did. I wrote down about 23 names. I came back home, started calling them. Hello, sir. My name is Arrey. You don't know me, but first I wanted to say congratulations on everything you're doing. I am a student in the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, and I realized you don't have some stories from Boya, which was the city where I was. And if you don't mind, I'd like to volunteer and start sending over some free stories. So I called a bunch of them. Many of them are like, hey, Arrey, cool. Okay, now that we know, we'll reach out to you if there's something. Some of them didn't pick up. I dropped emails, but one of them picked up and said, hey, Arrey, it's very interesting that you're saying this because we're actually looking for a writer from Boya,
Wow.
which is a city where I
Yeah.
was. I'm like, oh, cool. So let's. I mean, sir, can I meet you or something? He's like, I'm in your city in 3 weeks' time. Can we meet? Can we talk about this? Long story short, that's how we met, and I started writing for the newspaper Cameroon Herald. And so I kept writing for Cameroon Herald until about a year when the crisis hit. And when the crisis hit, the newspaper had to close down. And then now I'm thinking again to myself, oh, I used to volunteer for this paper. What do I do with these stories? How do I even survive myself?
Hmm.
And so the thought in my mind, which is answering your question, the thought for myself was, I used to send out these stories and they publish in the newspapers. What if I kept writing the stories, but I took them and started publishing online? That was when I thought about, oh, creating a blog with all these news stories that I used to write. So I went online, researched on how to create a WordPress blog, which is, by the way, was free.
Okay.
I created a WordPress blog and I started to write those news stories. Remember, once again, everybody's home. And because it was the crisis time, people want to know what's happening in different cities, what's happening around the
Yeah.
crisis. And I found that as my niche. And so we started writing. And then I think about 1 year down the line, I was nominated among the top 5 in Cameroon. And then later on, we started getting about 30 to 50,000 readers every month because everybody wanted to know about what was happening around. And I would write and share to WhatsApp groups, to Facebook groups, and then I publish on the website. And then I signed up to some AdSense, which wasn't very productive though. But at some point, I went, now we have 30 to 50,000 readers. How do I make a bit of money from this? I sat down, created a small PDF for about 2 page PDF which says, my name is Arrey. You don't know me, I don't know you, but I just wanted to say congratulations on your journey. But by the way, I run a news website. We're getting 30 to 50,000 people who read our news stories. Would you mind advertising on our website? And so I literally did this. I printed a bunch of them and I started going out, some emailing to businesses. And that's exactly how I made my first million CFA on the internet.
Wow.
And so fast forward to right now, I literally ran the platform. We got about 30 to 50,000 readers every single month. And then got people started advertising on the platform. I made my first, let me say my first $1,000. Let's put it that way for those who are also in the Western world. And when I did that, later on, some of the businesses started saying, hey, Arrey, it would be good if you really show us some better metrics. Let's know how many people are reading your website. But most importantly, let's be able to track how many people are coming through your marketing.
Hmm.
Then I thought to myself, why not learn marketing properly? And that's exactly what I did. I went out there, found someone. Once again, I did what every entrepreneur, every business owner, every career person needs to become good at doing. I took out my credit card. I saved for it, by the way. It wasn't like I just took the money from somewhere,
Yeah.
but I went out and I paid someone and said, hey, I see you're better at this than me. How can I learn from you? So when I did that, I learned. And then I came back, started a marketing agency. And today we're helping businesses, entrepreneurs to get clients on social media. And because of the experience that I've gathered all these years, I also started a club, which is called the Smart Club, where right now we've trained hundreds of people to learn a digital marketing skill. So that's basically a bit of the journey. And because I also met some really cool people on the way,
Hmm.
I was like, why not just end? Why do I have to just end at the Smart Club and the marketing agency? Then I started a podcast
Yeah.
to interview some of the best people that I meet on my journey. So that's a bit of the story.
Wow. This is very great. So you saw a problem or you saw a crisis, the crisis where
Yeah.
people are running away, but you stood and he said, yes, in every crisis there is something in there for you to take up, and then you took up this thing. This is where you are. I've seen that
Absolutely.
you've been on international platforms, BBC, CNN, Fox, and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Is this, or was this the final dream or destination in your mind when you started all this journey? Did you think
Absolutely not.
you could have just ended here because you are just a social media content creator?
I think at the start, if I'm being honest with you, I just wanted to feed, right? Because you're at the point where ends are not meeting and
Yes.
you want to make some money for yourself. So at the time I started, my whole goal was, how do I make a bit of money for myself to survive and to stay alive?
Yes.
It's just it's just, to me, it's just interesting that these platforms can. For example, when I started, it was actually when I was running the platform. One of the news stories that I actually published was something that was really breaking from Cameroon.
Okay.
And then one time I get a call saying, "Hey, is this Arrey?" I'm like, "Okay, yes, this is Arrey. It's so and so from the BBC." I'm like, "Hold up, this is a lie. Oh no, you guys are joking. Who's this wants to scam me?" They're
How
like,
can a whole BBC come to my end?
like really, like,
Yes.
are you kidding me? Like, and they're like, "Okay, so do you know how it went?"
Hmm.
They had to send me a message direct to my Facebook for me to believe that it was them.
Oh, okay.
Because at first I was like,
You were
no,
doubting. You were
whoever is
doubting the
writing to me.
authenticity of it.
Yeah. And then they did. So when they say, "Hey, we've just seen the story that you wrote and it's very interesting and we wanted to interview you on this and also just a bit on because you have all of this knowledge about Cameroon." So I'm sitting, I'm like, "Oh shoot, this is really the BBC."
Hmm.
Funny enough, at the time I was also in the UK because I was attending an event where I had just been recognized as one of the top young journalists by the Future News Worldwide Conference. I was in London at the time, and I said, "Hey, would you want to do a call on so that you can report on X and X story?" I'm like, "Hey guys, do you know something? I'm in the UK right now. Do you want me to pop into the studio?" Cool. I really come into the studio so that we can have a conversation.
Wow.
That's exactly how I found myself. So the BBC reached out. They wanted me to, do a video, something just like we're doing right now. And I said, "Hey, I'm in the studio. I'm in the country. Do you want me to pop in so that we have something?" And the rest is history. But yes, to respond to your question, I had no freaking idea that this would lead me to all the recognitions and the little things that the journey has brought for me.
Oh, great. So you are now more or less have dominated this space, and you're all over, and you just do not want to stay alone. You want to carry on the mantle to other people. What are some of the challenges right from when, because you have just started just by writing, other
Mhm.
than people who starts by vlogging, doing
Mhm.
comedy, other stuff. You did not do comedy. You just started writing. And in our world, people, not so many people are into writing and stuff. But
Mhm.
this is a niche that you've carved for yourself. How
Right.
have you been able to cement this niche? And why did you just decide to focus on this particular area of just writing?
I think the first thing for me, if I think about how the journey, first off, when I started, I should say that I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
But two things helped me is that I sought for the knowledge and I went for mentorship.
Okay.
And then if I were to add a third thing, is I was playing to my strength. When I started, the first thing is I don't know what I'm doing on this space. I'm just trying to understand what it
Hmm.
takes. And then the more I started watching videos, the more I started buying courses, the more I started listening to people who had done. By the way, I'm not saying you should buy just any course, but you have to do your due diligence. That's very, very important because there are people who just rip you off the small monies you
Yes,
have.
yes.
But the point is, if you look for someone who has done what you are trying to do, the goal for you is to, hey, how do I grab all of this? And here's the best part of it: if it took me 10 years to get here, I can rip out this and compress it into 2 years for someone else to replicate it.
Okay.
That's the beauty of studying from someone who already knows it. So number one, I sought out knowledge. Number two is that I was playing to my strength. At the time, I knew I studied journalism and mass communication. Writing was my superpower, and it still is my superpower. And if I think about going to do comedy, I'm not as funny as the comedians. I'm not as funny as those other
Yeah.
guys. I would just get lost in the whole ocean. And so I wanted to play to my strength and go for writing. And then the third thing is, even when I started going for writing, I didn't just go, I'm going to keep doing stuff until I figure out myself. But I'm going to keep doing stuff while learning on the process and also finding those people that are very good at what I want to do. And then I'm learning from them. So remember and take note for those who are listening, I didn't just say you copy stuff, but I'm using the word model. Copy is like you just go, you copy and
Yeah,
paste.
yeah.
A model is like you look at this and you go, oh, that's
And
interesting.
fit into
How do I tweak that?
your scheme of things.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you find your voice. So I would say that those are some of the things that helped me. And still, they still do help me in my journey because every single time I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to find new things. The second thing is that I'm trying to learn from mentors ahead. And then the third thing, I'm trying to play from my strengths.
Great. So you've capitalized on your strength, probably as a person who is able to write for newspaper, for
Mm.
other agencies, and then because of that, you are here, you are training people, and so you just focused on this niche and you've carved
Yeah.
it for yourself.
Yeah. One thing I would say, even to those who are listening, I think that a lot of people look at training as, oh, will I be able to really train people? I
Mm-hmm.
think that the process of training others, interestingly, made me to understand that I was way better than I thought.
Okay.
Because first off, when you are sitting down and you're trying to think about how to pass across this knowledge to other people, it is a very redefining moment for you
Okay.
because you're trying to learn this first for yourself to understand, but also you're learning this now to, it's not just for yourself, but to pass and to communicate it. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
podcasting. When you start podcasting, sometimes you think that you're just going to interview people and just share
Yeah.
what they have been up to. But before you realize, you start to shape the way you talk. You start to be very conscious of how you communicate. How, if I have this idea, I'm not just going to say this is a fly. How can I put it in such a way that someone listens to that and say, oh, this is what this is a fly. This statement, this is a fly, could be said in a better
Mm-hmm.
way, and they really understand and assimilate. And so the process of teaching also made me just discover way more. I became better. I could communicate it. I became better because I was also in the process of teaching what I was doing. But yeah, it just opened me up to a way different process. I will say to anyone, I think that there are three processes for anyone. Once you learn something and you get to a certain level, start to teach it. Start to teach it. Whether it's for free, whether it's for paid, start to teach it. Organize something, organize a master class, organize
Yes.
anything. Just teach it, start to share that knowledge, and then you discover way more about yourself. And then here's the most important part: other avenues of money arise from it.
Great. 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 So you got this idea and then you wrote a book in 2019. You said
Yeah,
that's how to make money, build relationship with social media, right?
yeah.
And so you are training people now. You build smart club. You have a
Mhm.
podcast, all because you started. You found a problem and you capitalized on it, and then you are here. What were some of the first
Exactly.
steps you took to establish your online presence, like for people to know you that this is the guy? Like your signature. Anybody hears you, your voice, your writing, and everything. They say this is the guy we are talking about.
Right. I would say that the very first thing was me finding a niche at the time, and I also know that this is something that a lot of people are going to relate with. When you start off, you're also worried, but I don't know what I want to talk about. I don't know what I want to write. I don't know what my niche is going to be. And to that issue, for me, the solution was to just start because it's just like podcasting. It's just like creating content. If you sit down and you're waiting for the right time to know all the pieces of content you're going to put together before you share, you might never start. But the thing is, when you start putting out content and then you go, people will be like, oh, I really did enjoy this. And then you go, oh, wow, so they really enjoyed this content? Okay, let me do more of it, right? So when I started writing short story, I started writing the first ever article that I wrote was about love because for me, I wanted to just keep writing love articles, blah, 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 and all of that. But when I wrote like the first 10 articles, I got some 100 views, maybe 50, 100 views. And then one time I wrote something about news and politics. It blew out. 1,000 people read that story within a space of 24 hours. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, 1,000 people read this? Like, really? 1,000 people? Then I'm like, what if I kept writing more about this? So that was me finding now my niche around around news and politics. And I would say that that was the first thing that helped me. Um, Struggled. I started. So the first thing that helped me was that I started. But the second and most important thing is the consistency.
Consistency.
A lot of times we are struggling to create something, and what happens is that the more you do things, the more you find different ways of doing it and the more you become better at it. So one of the things I said to myself, which really did help me, was I said to myself, Array, you're going to publish 1,000 articles for the next 1,000 days, and if you do this and it doesn't work for you, then change and find something else to do. Maybe blogging is not a thing for you. So at the time I was writing one article every single day. I wouldn't even say that I was a saint that I wrote an article every single day. There were days that I missed. But the days that I missed, I struggled the next day. I catch up. I write two or three
Yeah.
articles. But here's what happened. When I started writing articles, a lot of people saw me writing those articles and sharing to social media platforms, and they'll say to me, "Hey, Array, you're really good with WordPress. I see that you do a lot and you're sharing these articles to these news platforms and also to your news platform and also to social media. Can you come and train our team on how to use our own website in-house? And I'll go, good, yeah, let me come and train your team. So when I go in, I train the teams and the training goes very well. They'll say to me, hey, Ray, there's this event on social media, and I thought there's no better person to speak at this event than you because you're practically you're just practicing all of these things. So why not? Would you mind speaking at this event? Sure, I want to speak at the event. When I speak at the event and it goes very well, they'll say to me, "Hey, Ray, you spoke really well. See, you seem to have a lot of knowledge. Could you come in for a private consultancy with our team or with our?" And do you see that? Just me blogging, just me sharing my
Mm-hmm.
story. People saw it from there and they go, "Oh, you're now sharing stuff. Why not come and train our team?" I trained the team. It works very well. And by the way, I had not stopped. I was still writing these articles consistently. But along the line, because I had said to myself, do this for the next 1,000 days, you see that all of these other avenues had opened up. When I'm writing, people say, come and train the team. When I train the team, it goes well. They say, come and speak at this event. When I speak at this event, it goes well. They say, come and
Yeah.
consult. When I consult, it goes well. They come back to my news
Mm-hmm.
platform. And so the whole process was me just saying, be consistent. And I would say those are the things that help me. And then just learning on the process. I think that for everyone is going to be peculiar. Sometimes you might have to reflect. Sometimes you have to look at your content, look at your metrics. And just a couple of things that helped me on my journey.
There are people who believe that yes, you can have an edge, you can be consistent, you can keep practicing and stuff, but still none of these processes works. And whatever it is, um, like people say, social media has its own dynamics, right?
Mm.
And it will not give you always what you think that you deserve or whatever it is. But in this space,
Mhm.
whilst you've encountered top people who are in today's social media content creation and things, what is that one key thing that you've learned from all the people who are into this space, who are into content creation, podcasting, and stuff?
Right. I would say two things. The first thing is the people who have succeeded, the more I meet them, the more I speak to them, the more I realize how humble they are.
Okay.
Very interesting. And I would tell you, every single time I try to reach out to someone who maybe try to play a little tough or put me through a
Yeah,
procedure,
yeah,
I just realize, I mean, I'm not shitting on anyone, but at some point, I'm just like, this man, you're really not that as big as I thought you
yeah,
were.
yeah.
Well, but when I meet the people that I like, I really see them as these successful people. I realize they're just so humble. And this humility comes in different ways, be it from responding to people, be it even just the hunger to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll sit down with someone who I consider very, very prominent in their field, and they're still asking me questions and really, really listening. And they're like, "Hey, Ari, can I pick your brain on this?" And sometimes I'm asking myself, "You really want to pick my brain on this when I look up to you?" And that's the first thing. Number one, they are very humble. The second thing that I would say is, especially on social media, they're saying something interesting. They're saying something interesting.
Okay.
And it means that if they have to create a piece of content, Array gets up in the morning and he goes to school. That's the storyline. But the people who are successful, they go, how can I put an interesting part in that storyline? Array gets up in the morning, he had to go to school, but suddenly a bus knocks him down. Now that's an interesting part in that storyline.
Yeah.
That is not just I got up and I went to school, but they are now looking for that very interesting thing. And it's the same. All the people that I've spoken to on the podcast, even with the huge content creators, every single time they say to me, "Ari, you have to do something interesting." And someone might be thinking about this, but Ari, I am not creating stories like this. The point is, if interested in your niche, it means for me, it's about talking to people who have something to say. It's about talking to people who really, really have the content. If interested in your niche, let's say you're a doctor, what's the interesting thing in your niche, right? Sometimes it's about, I have this guy that I follow, I think he's from Angola or something. He's a comedian. He has never done a skit. Do you know how he does his comedy? He would literally just sit down where he is and then write a text, take a funny picture of himself and then post it on social media, and he has 4 or 5 thousand likes. That's his own comedy. He's saying something interesting in
Mm-hmm.
that particular area. So I think that the two things is that they're very humble. You're very humble to learn, very humble to look for knowledge, very humble to relate with people. But most interestingly, everybody that I see excelling in the online space, they're talking, they're doing something interesting. And again, that's a very debatable thing because a lot of people have their
Yeah.
limits. For me, I have my limits which I can go to prove the content right. I will not, if I were a woman, I will not open my boobs or do something because for me, those are the values that guide me,
Yeah.
which is another
Yeah.
thing that I feel that anyone creating content, you need to know your limits. You need to have a set of rules that define you as a person, and your content should reflect that. But the point is, boring will take you out of business. I heard someone say this. I've forgotten him. I've forgotten the person who said that. But boring will take you out of business, and interesting will bring the eyeballs to you.
So what keeps you going? Of all these, you've met people, you've seen people, you've started from the scratch, you've built businesses and everything. What keeps you going? All of this, all of the successes that you've chalked up to this point. Can you say yes? If today there's no more array, if today you stopped, can you say like you've reached the stage where you say you're okay with the whole of this process that you started?
First things first, I think that the process of being fulfilled is a journey that everyone needs to find within themselves. And I think that I try to do a pretty good job at doing that for myself. So I am enough with myself. I'm okay with myself. But if you also ask me what keeps me going, I think it's the drive to, I'm just always setting new targets. So it's interesting. Let me say this again. So when I started off, when they asked me what keeps you going, I would literally just reply and say hunger. Because I mean, you and I know, man. Let's not sugarcoat it.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
one of the
Man must
motivational speakers who
survive.
are going to say, "Yeah." I'm not one of the motivational speakers who are going to be, look, it's the drive, it's this. There are days I get up, I don't have
Yeah, yeah.
drive.
Man,
But when
man
you
must
remember you
survive,
have
you
bills,
know.
man must survive, bro. So when you remember you have bills to pay, and then you remember also that you have parents, you have other things, right?
Hmm.
You go, oh, I have to feed, I have to do this. That keeps you going. But I think now at this point, it is me just the fulfillment. When I wake up in the morning and sometimes I read emails from friends or I would have a message from someone say, I really did enjoy do this, or hey, I read this email from you and it just changed the way I wanted to change my action. For example, somebody sends me an email a couple of months back and said, hey, I read an email from you. I was literally about to commit suicide, but I
Wow.
think that changed my mind. And I literally just went back to loving my daughter and trying to pick my life again. I think for me, that's what would now motivate me. And other than the fact that I'm also having some little wins by the way and celebrating them, I think that's what would motivate me to keep going right now.
It is so easy starting content creation because in a world now where most of the things we use for creating content are just in our hands, it is so easy to establish your dominance or your presence on social media.
I would say that you have to be mentally prepared. What I mean mentally prepared is, hey, for example, we've started a podcast. How about I make up my mind and say that for the next 2 years, whether this podcast is profitable or not, I'm going to grind on it and I see where this leads me. If after 2 years I don't see any really good success from me, then I can drop it.
Okay.
How many people can say that for themselves? Right. So I think that if we talk about is it easy, it is just because a lot of people think about it from the perspective of, hey, I want to get into this and start making money as soon as
Yeah.
possible. And so when your eyes is fixed on the profits, especially the financial ones, then you get frustrated because once again, the algorithms will frustrate you by the level of your expectation. So what I would say, instead of people going and 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 just putting their minds on the financial gains, how about think about the process and what that process is going to do for you? So when I want to get some certain level of results, I've learned not to think about the goal. I've learned to think about the process.
Hmm.
So I want to publish a successful podcast and I want to be known in my field of the
Yeah.
podcasting. I'm not thinking about the goal that I want to achieve. Yes, I have that goal written down.
Hmm.
That's the end goal.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm processing that process. I'm going to do this for the next 2 years, and then I'll see how far I can get results for this. So I think that when people think about it that way, it's going to motivate you more. So that even at the time, because the highest place, in my experience coaching people, there are about 3 levels. Everybody, there is the first level of when you start. There's so much excitement there. And then there's another level of when you're met with the realities and the hardship.
Yeah.
The algorithms are not favoring you. things are not, maybe you have a consistency issue, discipline issue, equipment issue, all of that. The people who succeed to go through this phase are the people who go, oh, there's something here. Actually, I'm starting to enjoy this now. And then they start to have the rewards of it. So there's the excitement phase, which everyone will face when you're starting anything new. What are you creating content? Oh, wow, I finally got to put out my first video. And usually the first video does at least decent because people are like, especially your friends on social media, just like, oh wow, you started this new thing, wow, bravo, bravo. And then when you start putting 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they go, oh, looks like he's starting to succeed now, let me just watch. By nature, that's how man does
Yeah.
it. And that's the place where, and that is the time where a lot of people would actually get frustrated because they go, oh, I started receiving this support, now I'm not receiving this support, now the algorithms are no longer in my favor. But if you succeed to go through that phase, and then there is that point where you start, oh wow, this is working. And because the process has also taught you a lot of other skills, I think that, so to answer your question, it's not easy, but it could be done if you decide and think about the process and set a time frame for at least when you want to do stuff. So instead of going, I want to start content creation because I want to make money, just go, I want to start content creation and create content for the next one
Hmm.
year and see how that works for me.
Wow. So with this, what do you see as some of the common mistakes that, like beginners of content creation on social media, what are some of the common mistakes that you have identified when in your line of training people, and how can they avoid some of these mistakes?
I would say the first is perfectionism. A lot of people, and so I struggle with this as
Mhm.
well. Put your hands up, my hands are up, both hands, right?
My hands are up
Because
too.
you want to get you want to get everything really perfect. It's like, hey, I have to get the camera angle this way. I have to get this
I'm
this
telling
way.
you.
I'll share a quick story with you. So this is I'm recording this from a
Yeah.
camera right now. 2 years ago, I didn't have I didn't use a camera. So there's this time when I was about to record a video, and literally I didn't want to set up my camera and all of that. I had a sty on my eye or something. So I decided, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Should I just still record this video? Or, but here's something. I decided at that moment, I said, oh, let me just record something, but from my phone,
Hmm.
however, because I wanted to run some ads maybe for the smart club and other things. I recorded that video from my phone, just speaking to my phone. And when we ran ads for it, I realized shockingly, all the good videos that I recorded with my camera, no one did as better as that video that I recorded with
Yes.
my phone. And then I started asking myself, why is it? It's because a lot of people saw that to be very relatable. And this is maybe this is also something that someone could at least speak from. What I realized is good videos like this from your
Hmm.
camera, they will help you to build brand
Yes.
authority. But to relate with your audience, you need the very relatable things. For example, the day you wake up in the morning, pick your phone and you just talk. Have you realized that most of the trending videos are not really the ones that people put all
Well
the lighting
rehearsed,
and camera?
videos, or well prepared videos and stuff,
Exactly.
or well scripted videos. They just start making the
Yeah,
mistakes and stuff, but people still watch them.
yeah, and it's and then even think about even the when we have all of these gossip videos that trend,
Yeah.
there are people literally talking to their phone, or sometimes on a live video. Burna Boy is talking about the video on a live video, and it's not even very clear. It's the clip that someone screen records that goes viral,
Hmm.
right? And so the whole idea is sometimes we're trying to think about things from the perfect stand. I would say to you, as long as it is decent, kick the ball rolling and start going from there. And then the second mistake that I see a lot of people do is starting and failing, or starting and not being
Okay.
consistent in the process. If you're not consistent, you can't know what is working. You can't be tweaking things. You can't, even your audience, they know that you're not very consistent on it. And so I would say those are the top two that I see a lot of people. And then the third thing, which I think we've talked about earlier on, is just find someone. There's nothing you're trying to do right now that someone around the world has not
Yeah.
succeeded in.
There's nothing new under the sun. Nothing
Nothing.
new under the sun.
So if you want to, literally, if you want to create what kind of content, go on the internet and find people who have succeeded in that
Hmm.
thing, and just go, once again, model, not copy them. Model them. You look at what they're doing, and then you go, oh, how can I take this and start to do for my fit? So three things. Number one, you have to kick away perfectionism and try to go at least decent. There's a thing we say at the Smart Club: progress, not
Yeah.
perfection.
Progress, not perfection. Yeah.
Progress, not perfection. So I always say that to the team every time somebody's like, I want this perfect. It's progress, not perfection. Number two is being consistent. And then number three is just find someone who is already succeeding in that thing. Go learn from them, because that way, here's the thing. And I say this to everyone who's listening to this. You're going to succeed, but you can succeed in two ways. You're either going to succeed by spending years of your life in trial and error, figuring things out all by
Yeah.
yourself, or you can take someone else's journey and process, you model, and then you replicate that within a shorter period of
Sure,
time.
sure, sure. And it works so perfectly for you. So
Every single
you've
time.
identified your niche as maybe this is the way you want to go, right? And
Mm,
then
mm,
probably it might be in line with your passion as well. So you build on that. What
mm.
systems have you put in place, or can new or beginners put in place for them to be successful in this journey of social media? What are some of the
Very
systems?
interesting. Yeah, very interesting question. What systems? I've never thought about it. And I'm a very big systems person. That's a really, really good question. The reason is because I think that for me, sometimes we just go, we want to create
Yes, we
content,
just
and
start.
we just start creating this piece of content. But I've never really thought about this. What systems can we put in place? I think that if I think about systems, the one thing I would say to anyone listening to this is try as much as possible to do stuffs, especially when you're starting out, things that depend solely on you. And I know that this might be controversial,
Hmm.
right? Let's say, Obed, you and I decide that we want to do a
Yeah,
podcast, right? You're in a different city, I'm in a different
sure.
city. If I wake up one day and I'm motivated and you're not, you're killing my process. So the thing, and this might not everyone is going to agree with this
Yeah.
point, but for me, I'm always thinking, how can I create this with lesser? I'll give a very good example. I was speaking to someone last week. He wants to start a podcast. One of the things he wants to do with his podcast is, hey, every time he records his podcast, he's going to get a producer to do him some sounds. Every time he wants to record a podcast, he has two other co-hosts. And so he was sharing the idea with me and say, hey, Array, what do you think about this? And then he's going to get also a video editor. So that's already about 4 or 5 people involved in the process. Number one, you have to go and get somebody to do your, oh, he's going to get a feed person. Oh, the person with like shooting, the camera person
Hmm.
who is going to shoot. That's even different from the person who will edit, or maybe might be the same person. But I said, in the course of the conversation, and I said to him, you don't have all the
Yeah.
resources, right? So what I think you should do is, instead of getting a producer, go to Epidemic Sounds, go and get a free beats, free music for £7 a month. You've already taken out the idea of relying on one other person who might fail you down
Yeah.
the line. Instead of going, I need to go and look for two different co-hosts till I get two co-hosts, then I start the podcast. How about you start with what you can? Instead of going, I need to meet these people, travel one by one and meet them and have these interviews with
Yeah.
them. How about just recording podcasts online,
Remote.
right? At least for the start, I know that your goal is to literally go and do this in
Yeah.
person, but while you're looking at your resources. So I think that those are the little things about thinking about when you want to start anything. And the biggest system I would say is try to do stuff that rotate around you, that you can control, that are within your frame of control. Because I see a lot of people start stuff every single time and they're waiting to get this, to get this, to get this. And these are relying on other people. How about you use your resources? You don't have to get a camera. You don't have to literally wait for someone to come and shoot you. Whip out your phone, record your stuff, learn how to use CapCut. It might take you maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 days or one
Yeah.
week, and then you do stuff. Just like with my podcast, when I started, it was the same. I didn't want that friction. So right now, I would say that it has to go through two people. I record it myself, like me and the guest. When we are done, my video editor. Now that's just one more person who gives me headache. Which, if I communicate very well with them, they get stuff done to me on
Yeah.
time. So now the friction is reduced. I don't have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or involve 5 people in the
Hmm.
process, and then it's daunting for me. So just think about how I can do stuff within my resource alone or within the available things that I have on my hands.
Great. So in this space,
Mm.
does it really pay? Does social media really pay as people? Because you go to social media, you see content creators, and they share their stories and their journeys, and people say my channel has been monetized. I'm earning this amount of Z, A, B, C amount of money, maybe this month
Mhm.
or whatever it is. Do you think that it's another way of making like money out of everything?
Yes, it does. I would say to you 1000% it does. I wish I could whip out my phone and show you now. So this is a page of somebody that I was trying to help them monetize. And interestingly, the guy that I'm about to, I'm not going to show you all his
Yeah.
details, but interestingly, he's literally just publishing stuff on Facebook, which is literally just news. He's blogging, and he does not post videos, just images and text.
Okay.
And if you look at it, I think he's making maybe about $300-400 a month or
Wow.
something, because his page has been monetized and he's trying to make some things for himself.
Okay.
But the point I'm trying to make is, okay, let me show you this now. How do I blur this? Okay, look at this. If you can see,
Uh, yeah, I can see
let
it.
me
I can
crop.
see a bit of it.
Yeah, but you see somewhere $20 per for this
Yes.
post, $10
Yes,
for this
yes, yes,
post.
yes.
You even see another one, $78.
Yes.
That's him being paid on social media.
So
Believe
this is
that.
this is this is Facebook.
This is Facebook.
Wow.
This is Facebook. It's a page that we're monetizing. So you can see the first one, $78 for a
Yeah.
post. There's another one, $46 for one single post, $41 for one single post, $36 for one single post, $20 for one single post, just like that, on and on. And if I scroll and go down, you see all of these posts that he's making,
Wow.
at least some are 50 cents, some are $1. It depends on the reach of the
Mm-hmm.
post. But the point I'm trying to make is that each of these things pay. However, you need to get a level of visibility, you need to get a level of audience for it to pay,
Okay.
right? So, and also it depends on the niche where you're creating content. So if you're talking about YouTube, yes, YouTube pays, but it might be minimal. However, there are other avenues to monetize YouTube. For example, my podcast, literally, if you check out my channel right now, I have just 500
I think
subscribers.
it's when I was coming, I checked. It's like 599 or something.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. Meaning that we've grown, maybe because of the last
Yeah. Yeah.
episode
Yeah. Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
But I have about 500 subscribers, right? And YouTube is not paying me yet because I've not gotten monetized. It's a new channel. I just started with a
Yeah.
podcast. However, I've had people who have said, "Hey, Arrey, I want to come on the podcast and we're ready to pay you X and Y."
Wow.
Now you see that this is because there is another, so this is another source
Income.
of me creating that piece of
Mm-hmm.
content. Also, some of the few clips that we're sharing on social media is not very much, to be honest. Full transparency, I'm literally making less than $100 from them every single month. But the point is, that's still another avenue, and I'm growing it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm growing it. So if you ask me from my experience, yes, it pays because I've watched people pay from it, and then I know that even still just starting out with clips and other things I'm doing on Facebook and the rest, we're still getting at least maybe anywhere at least under $100 for a starting podcast, right? So if I put that energy, it is the same thing, comes back to what I said. If I put my energy and horn down on these things for the next
Yeah.
2 years, do you think I'll still be making less than $100 from the podcast?
You'll be
No,
making more.
I'll be making more. So it pays, but there is a consistency plan for it. And even when you're not looking at AdSense or you're not looking at monetization as the main goal of
Mm-hmm.
it, and let me be honest with you, Obed, if the only thing I ever gained from that podcast was improve my communication skills, totally worth it.
Yes.
Because because there are times where I've sat down in this chair and I've literally offered a keynote speech, which is literally about $500 for my
Wow.
1 hour, right? So it pays, but it depends on your metrics of measurement. If you're just looking at the monetization thing, sometimes you might be in a niche where it's not paying that much. But how about if that's opening you up to other avenues and opportunities? So yeah.
Okay. So do you need to invest more to get more? It is a medium of investment? Is it like a form of investment? Because for me, I believe that, or I think that you need to, spend much, or you need to spend money on it to get it back, because you buy from setting up your camera, your phone, whatever it is,
Mhm.
from somebody trying to manage the content for you, because I'm sure there are people who are well versed in these areas to be able to get your page to get monetized. You need to go through all these processes, right? And so,
Yeah,
and there are people whose page are even due for monetization, but more or less they have no idea of what it is. So,
you're right.
do you need to spend?
Let me try.
Do you need to
Yeah,
spend more to
let me
get
try.
more?
Yeah, let me try to answer this. This is a very tricky question, and I have to be very careful with the way I
Yeah,
answer
yes.
it. Right. And I'll try to answer it from about two or three sides. Number one, you might need to pay to make more, but that depends on your
Mm-hmm.
industry. And the third thing I'll say will make
Yeah.
all the sense. But let me start first with the first. You might need to pay. For example, in my case, if I'm starting off the podcast, sometimes the way that I might pay maybe might be running ads and getting the podcast in front of many more people's
Yeah.
eyes. And when they come, they'll subscribe, they'll like the content, and they'll stay around, and then they'll start sharing with their friends, and it grows. That's the business model for the
Okay.
podcast,
Mm.
right? Which works. I might have to pay some little bucks for that visibility to be gotten. On the second side, so which you talked about, some people, their pages are already monetized, but they don't know how to. What you need is knowledge. Because can I say to you, most 90% of the things that I've learned online, I went to YouTube. Most of the times I realized that when I went out, I bought a course, about 70% of what was in the course I knew already. I probably learned about 10, 20%. But again, I didn't stop by. I will not stop
Yes.
buying because just that 10, 20% that I learned, I promise you, it put me way further. And even sometimes the discipline that, oh, I paid for this, I have to put in the energy to get this work done. It's another mental mind frame, right? So, number one, if your page is monetized, and there's for everybody, if you're in the Western world, you're listening to this, if your page is, you literally just need to go and watch a 10 minute video and you'll be able to hit monetize on your page. Literally. It doesn't take anything. People will go and pay for that. Watch a 10 minutes video, how to apply for monetization on my Facebook page. It takes less than 5 minutes as I'm speaking to you right now. But the third part of it, which is very important, which I said I wanted to talk about, for anyone watching this, if you're starting online, I would say that the biggest way to start making some cash is not necessarily by you going to enter into business models that require you to pay to make
Yeah.
money, which is where a skill comes
Okay.
in,
Mm-hmm.
right? If I learn how to, I'll give you a very good example. So, and this is so cool. 2 years ago, I called my junior sister and said, "Hey, I don't want to keep giving you allowance. Well, in the nicest way, but I want you to learn
Yeah.
something." So I enrolled her into a graphic design class, right? When I enrolled her into a graphic design class, I said to her, "Hey, all that I want you to do is just to learn how to do graphic design in a better way so that you can at least improve on these skills and start to serve other brands." Yeah, it took about 1 year of us struggling to learn that skill and to hone it down. But right now, as I'm speaking to you, we were actually tracking because I spoke to her. I'm literally tracking her finance and how much she has ever made from the
Mm-hmm.
career. Just about 3 months ago, she has topped more than $1,000 just from making, just for doing graphic designs for other brands. And I'm talking about making $1,000 for someone who is still in school in her third year of the university. She's not even
Wow.
graduated. Right now, last year or at the beginning of this year, she came to us and said, "Hey, I don't want you guys to pay my rent. I don't want you guys to. I've already got some of the money. How can I just cover 60% of it?" And she did pay for her rent. She did pay part of her fees. We only helped her on something else. Right now, I don't give her allowance all the time, right? But the point I'm trying to make is the skills are very important, and the simplest way to at least start making some money online is by learning a skill, because you don't have to spend on that like to monetize. It's not like a
Yeah.
product. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? It's not a product you have to go and spend money out there to hey, buy this thing. But it's you've learned the skill is based on you, and you're using your manpower to deliver that service. So if it is graphic designs, go learn how to do graphic designs and offer your time. You're designing for people for some fee. If it is Facebook ads, go learn how to do that. If it is email marketing, go learn how to do that. I think that's the biggest way anyone could make their first $1,000 online. So a lot of people be like, "Can I sell products online?" Yes, you can. But genuinely, I would say even with the people that we see in the smart club, most of them would literally make like their first buck after they learn the skill, then they decide to really hone down on it, content create, and the same. Funny thing, my junior brother edits. He's on my videos
Mm-hmm.
team. I literally trained him how to edit videos, and as I'm speaking to you right now, I pay my junior brother his salary from my team,
Wow.
right? So I taught him how to. Well, I didn't teach him. I enrolled him into a video training
Mm-hmm.
course where he learned how to do it, because I have an eye for what I want in
Yeah.
videos. I caused him to. I literally said to my junior brother, I said, "Hey, look, you're going to edit at least 50 different videos as if we're going to post them on social media, but we're not. Every single week he did that and sent to me. And then I locked in a call with him. I said, forget the fact that you're my brother. Every Wednesday, 9 a.m., we're going to have a call. We're going to talk about this like it's business. If I show you my phone, it's still on my calendar. Every Wednesday, 9 a.m., we're talking, even if it's for 15 minutes. And what happened when he got really good at video editing? When I needed an extra video editor, he actually applied. First off, I even refused him from joining. I said to him, I said, no, I don't want
You didn't want
family
to
fee.
create a family
Then he was,
business.
yeah. I mean, I don't think it was a
Yeah,
good
yeah,
idea at
yeah,
that
yeah.
time. But my head of videos on the team was like, hey, I sent this sample and it actually looks good. It looks like we can improve him from that. I'm like, really? You think so? He said, yes. I said, okay, good. Here's what I'll ask you to do. Can you interview him on Zoom? Let's see what it's going to look like. So as I passed, exchanged the contacts and she did kind of an interview or something. I said, yeah, I've spoken to him. I think we can bring him on. So we brought him on the team. Right now, he's getting a salary. Well, not very
Yeah.
big, let me be honest, but at least decent for him to at least do something while honing down his skills. So I think that for anyone, that's a very long answer to a very
Yeah,
short
yeah, but
question.
it's
But
very
the
elaborative
point
because
is,
at the end of the day, these are
yeah,
things that we need or people need to be able to know the space in which they find themselves. So it's well good to
exactly.
take your time to
Mhm.
break them down for people to really
Exactly. So
understand
I
it.
think that if you want to make your first cash online, just go learn a skill. When you learn that skill, try to hone down on it. And the first thing I will even say for anyone watching this, even if you're like, I'm not very techy, I want to start basic. Just go and start managing social media for people,
Great,
right? Just learn how can I write a 4 paragraph content? How can I write a 4 paragraph content? And then you go and start writing to businesses and say, hey, I could manage your social media. I'm going to post once every single day. It'll take you about 15, 20 minutes, maybe 1 hour if you're still really learning. But you create content for them and you could charge an extra £200, £300, £400, depending on where you get on where your the business is.
great. What's the best way to more or less increase visibility?
The best way to increase visibility. Very interesting because at the moment right now I'm testing a lot of things and I realized with me with videos, the thumbnails, whether it's on Facebook or it's on YouTube, I did realize that thumbnails work really well. That's the first way to increase visibility.
Okay.
And then I'm also the other thing that I'm testing with the team is the first few seconds of the video, right? Because I realized in the videos I was like, can you imagine that this is it? And it was just like a free video that just went. It's like the views
Hmm.
drop, but when you get the audience like in the first five to
Like
ten minutes and
what
you
they
say
call
something.
hook. You hook them.
Yes, it's a hook. Oh, awesome. When you use like the right hook, I realized that they watch right up to the end. And because they watch right up to the end, the algorithm realizes, oh, this is very interesting content, and they show it to many more people and increases the reach. So I would say that's a good way to um, increase visibility. And then secondly, I would say consistency. I don't know why we keep coming back to it, but it's that important, right? So if you want to create a piece of content, when you post it the first time, yes, it might not have all the best reach, but also with the algorithms. Facebook right now, very interesting. Let me just say this. Facebook right now is encouraging people, the more content you create, the more visibility you can
Yeah.
get. So if you want to get more visibility, create more pieces of content. And yeah, I think that's going to help. And then the last thing I will say is track your metrics.
Okay.
What I mean track your metrics is when you do a couple of posts, which one did better? How can I do something similar to that?
Hmm.
Right? For example, on the podcast when I did a podcast about one of the most viewed podcasts that I have right now, though it's not very viewed, but it was around how to create a Facebook page that is monetized or that makes about
Yeah.
800K a month CFR. And so when that did very well, I was like, okay. I went and just brought someone on YouTube about TikTok, how to create a TikTok page. When it went very well, I just went and brought some other person to talk about
Yeah.
YouTube. Right. So I saw that that was a trend. People were really
Mm.
liking that kind of content. I just kept bringing people. And then at the end of the day, I brought on about 3 or 4 different content creators. And right now, my most viewed videos on the podcast are content creators.
Okay. Okay. Like I
So,
spoke to one person, then he says that when you are working on anything, you are talking about anything, it should be more focused on trying to solve a problem. It shouldn't be about you, right? So when your
right.
content is more of solving a problem, then it means that
Mhm.
you are drawing people to the content. But when it's like you are
Exactly.
just talking, you are not making any, you are not solving any problem for anybody because at the end of the day,
Hmm.
people will not come to you. Yeah, and that
Hmm.
brings me back to team, the essence of team in trying
Mm,
to establish yourself, your presence,
mhm.
or create content on social media? How useful is a team in all these that we are talking about?
Right. I think a team is very, very important. However, if I'm being really realistic, most of the people who are starting off or who are listening to this and are trying to start off, I would honestly say you don't need a team because it doesn't make sense for you to hire someone if number one, let's talk about okay, look at it this way. We're talking to an average Ghanaian who's seated in Accra
Hmm.
right now and who is probably earning maybe, I don't know, $100, $200
Yeah,
a month, right? And if we think about you spending that on yourself, it's not even
yeah,
enough. And you're just starting a business. So where would you have money to hire a team member, right? So I always think about it at the start phase. It's very important for you to instead try as much as possible to do. You're a one-man band. And here's what I realized with the process. When I learned how to do all these little things, the way that it helped me in the future is that right now, because I have a team now, and at least because I can afford them, when I'm telling my team to do something, I know what I want them to do. If they don't do it very well, I'll get in
yeah.
and do it. Or, well, not necessarily get in and do it, but I will like, hey, there's something you're not giving me. Like my video editor, when they edit something, I'm like, there's something I'm not seeing here. I want you to do, I want you to do. And they'll be like, ah, yeah, I get it. But it's because at least I have an idea of video editing and all of that. So if we talk about team, I don't want anyone to feel like the team is not important. When you get to a point where maybe you can afford a team or you can spare an extra £100, £200, £300, whatever it is, to hire a team for sure. And then the team can now take off. The way I always look at it with my team now is they're taking off the things from my plate, which I do not necessarily have to be a
Okay.
part of. Does that make sense? For example, I can't outsource with the podcast. I cannot outsource the
Yeah.
host. That's the one thing I have to
Hmm.
be there. But I can outsource the editing. I can get somebody else
Yeah.
to do it. I can't. I cannot outsource some basic things about the team, but I can outsource someone else can like my assistant will do the show notes. She'll write the emails that go out that goes out. She'll do all of those little things. So I think that's where the team comes in. But if I'm being realistic, I know that most of the people listening to this who are just starting out, I don't think you should concentrate a lot on the team. Just think about how you can build things around yourself.
Okay.
And then if you have the finance to hire a team, and then those tasks that do not necessarily need you. What I actually do is that I write a list of
Hmm.
them in my team, within my team. What are the things that most need me,
Hmm.
right? Number one, money aspects. Nobody handles that. Want to handle my team is too small. I want to handle that one myself. I have to be there.
Yes.
Number two is like the podcast hosting. I can't outsource that. If we're working with clients, I can't at this point when the team is there. So I have just a team of four. I can't take that team and put at the forefront because I want to make sure that at least at this stage where we're still small, the client is having a good experience. So I will not outsource
Hmm.
that. But the emails, somebody else will do them. The video editing, somebody else will do them. So that's how I think about it. And that's how I think that we could structure and use your teams when you start to get one.
Okay. So how do you stay focused and maintain that positive mindset all through and through up to this point, and you are still on that streak of winning? How have you maintained
Mm,
that focus? Because people start.
that's a
I'm
good.
asking that because people start, and along the way you cannot
Mm,
find them, and
mm,
people also hop in. All of a sudden they appear, and then in
mm.
1 to 3 months you can't find them anymore. But when you build that consistency, you stay on, you're trying to do new things, you're trying to bring so many things, so many innovations and things. How do you do it?
Very interesting question. I don't know if I will be the best person to answer that because I think that generally I have some drive in me.
Hmm.
I don't know, and this is going to be peculiar for
Okay.
everyone. And for me, the drive is fueled by the fact that number one, you mentioned something earlier when we were talking. You talked about the
Yeah.
passion. If I'm being honest with you, I'd never thought about doing all of these things. Most of the things I'm doing, I had no idea that I wanted to do
Okay.
them. But what I always do is I trick myself to enjoy the
Okay.
process,
Yeah.
right? So when I find something like podcasting, I literally started thinking about doing podcasting was last year. And when I started thinking, okay, let me do this. Now I started looking at what's the exciting thing about podcasting that I can really look forward to. Okay, it's going to help me improve my communication skills. Okay, it's going to help me to connect with people,
Mm-hmm.
increase my network. Okay, the people I talk to, they could possibly become clients for the marketing agency, or they could become people that I'll coach them at the smart club. Okay, this is how it's going to help me. Now I found something very exciting about that thing that makes me want to put my energy to it. So that when I'm doing it, I know that these are the benefits. So that's it's such a tough question for me to answer, because I think just generally I've always just had that kind of drive. And then generally I hate being idle. I want to do stuff. I love the process of
Yeah.
creating stuff and having the success in it, even if it is just. That's why I like to clean the house. By the way, I like to cook, like to do those little things. I just love the fact that I could start something and then watch the process grow by some means. So if I get up and I just arrange my table. I like that. It's a bit scattered, but I arrange it and I see it. It's now organized or something. Yeah. It's such a difficult question for me to answer, but I hope that anyone listening to that could feed off that energy and find what works for them best in their industry.
Is there anything that you've introduced recently into your space and you just have seen the effect or the impact on everything you are doing now?
Oh, really a good one. I would say that staying organized.
Okay.
Staying organized. I can't overemphasize that. When I get up in the morning, for example, the last thing I do in the night before I go to bed is I make a to-do list of the
Oh,
next day's
okay. All right.
activities. And it helps me when I get up in the morning. I don't have to go, oh, what should I do? What should I do? And then you realize that the process of you thinking just overweighs you before you realize you're watching a
Yeah, yeah,
reel,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
2 hours
yeah,
are gone, 3 hours, 4 hours. So I think just that lead to practice of making a to-do list before the day before, like the last thing I do, or maybe the last one of the last thing I do, I just have an idea of what I
yeah.
have to do the next day. That's one. Number two is, I think, just having space for
Okay.
myself, being very reflective. And when I talk about having space, is I want to sit down and critically, well, not in the most
Yeah.
critical way, but I want to think about everything that I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. This podcast that I'm recording, how what are some of the things I could be learning from this process? What's the lesson I could be picking out of here? And what could I be getting from here? So I think that those are two things. The third thing I would say is staying positive, to be honest. Very, very important. Things happen to us that are a lot more crap, like some of the worst things. The way I always talk about it is a necessary evil,
Mm-hmm.
right? You think about it this way. I watched a video where, so there's this child that was on the road, and then there was like a lorry coming on the lane where the
Yeah.
child was. And then it just so happened that that child moved from that lane where the lorry was
Mm-hmm.
coming to the
To
next
the
lane and then got hit by a bike,
wow.
right? Like in the nick of time. So when I watched it, I'm thinking, the parents of this child and the child, if you are the kind of person who is just so down, you would always be thinking, oh my God, look at the bike hit me. This is so bad. I'm in the worst case. But that's a necessary evil. The bike needed to hit you for you to be safe
From
from
the
the
lorry,
lorry,
yeah.
right? So if you think about it that way, okay, now I'm in a messed up situation. This has happened. But how do I find, I know, and you have to deal with the effects of it. I'm not
Yeah.
disregarding that part of it, but how do you find that positive energy in that thing and thinking, oh, okay, now this is messed up, but yes, let me sit down. And I think that there is a lesson to learn from this process. What should I do differently next time? How do I grow from here? That's the question we should be asking
Mhm.
ourselves. And I think that those are like two or three things that literally help me on the,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Should we be focused on maybe having coaches or mentors or resources, books, courses? Should those things be our focus as content creators? If, for instance, you've taken that maybe as a side hustle or like a full-time job or a
Mhm.
part-time job, whatever it is, which
Mhm.
resources should you go to, or should you go for mentors, coaches, and what have you? Yeah.
One of the things that I'm trying to do right now, which I think I've got some success
Mhm.
with, is selective, what I call selective retention.
Selective
When I say
rotation.
selective retention, is my job is to study and learn only the things that are necessary for
Yeah,
my
because
growth.
there are so many things on the media. So many
Thank
things.
you. Thank you. So when I talk about selective retention, it goes without saying what you listen to. If you want to keep listening to the wars that are happening around the world, and I'm by no means just saying that these things are not important and people are not hurting. But if you want to keep feeding on them, they become your reality at some
Yeah.
point because they will weigh you down. Right. So when I talk about, so it's the same in the space of personal development. For example, my rule right now is I will not just wake up. I love random knowledge, but I will also not just wake up and just go for random knowledge. If I know that reading this book is going to make me get X and Y, that's what I would go for. And when I finish reading that book, number two, very important, get into action. If you don't get into action, you'll get in the loop of learning. And the thing with personal development and knowledge is that it's a really sweet cycle where you think that you're just learning and then you keep learning and never
No
practicing.
application.
Before you realize, you're just hoarding all this
Yes.
knowledge, right? So the first thing I would say is practice selective retention. Make sure that you're learning the things that are necessary for your growth at that point
Hmm.
in time. How to fly a plane might be very interesting. Yes, there might be things that I might watch maybe in my free time just because I want to
Yeah.
do them. But if I want to actively learn for my growth, I'll take the things that are very necessary for my field. The second thing is that when you watch that or when you study that thing, make sure that you're practicing it. Make sure that you are taking an action step in regards to what you've just studied. The third thing I would say, if at all you're getting a mentor, please by all means vet them.
You should vet your
By all
mentors.
means, yes, as in vetting in the sense, it's just like we do
Yeah,
with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
relationships, right? Before you accept someone into your life, you want to talk to them, know where they are with their mind, know where they are with how they think, their values, how you guys connect, how they
yeah,
interpret love, and all of these things that we
yeah.
look at. It's the same. If you're bringing someone into your life as a mentor, regardless of whether you're in the same space or not, they have a level of influence over
Okay,
your life,
yeah.
right? They have a level of of there are certain things you're going to assimilate from them. So when I talk about vetting a mentor, is hey, if I want to if I want to make more money, I will not just get a mentor who just kind of like just who is just talking about making more money and I've not really seen the
Yeah.
results. So that's what I mean by vetting them. You want to look at the right people. So yeah, those three things.
Okay. So you see now there are current trends all over, different dynamics or dimensions of the social media content creation. What current
Mhm.
trends now in the online space do you find like exciting or like promising?
Very good question. I think the
Hmm.
trend is going to be being authentic
Okay.
because the world is increasingly going towards creating something that's from, I would say, that's being authentic to you.
Mm.
Because number one, it's going to come off, whether you like it or not, you'll come off in your content. You'll come off in the message you intend to pass across through that content. Um, but if I'm talking about trends, if we want to talk about the format of the
Yeah.
content, what I see in the format of the content, like I said, yes, stay authentic. That's the first thing. But in the format of the content itself, I see a hook, I see the content, and then I see a call to action. So in the Smart Club, we have something called the HCC strategy. The HCC strategy is simply saying with whatever content you want to create, always make sure that it has three main things. It has a hook, just like you
Yeah.
said before,
Mm.
right? Which is, what's up, guys? Let's say that I'm trying to talk about rice, right? What's up, guys? If you've ever eaten rice, you might want to take a seat for this one. What does that statement do to you? It's like, wow, I've eaten
Yeah. So
rice.
let me hear what this guy has to say.
Let me hear what he has to say, and then I'll continue and go. Listen, for most of you guys know like rice is everywhere right now. But do you know that there are about three key things that a lot of people don't consider when they are eating rice? Number one, number two, number three, number four. Later this week, we're going to organize something. We're talking about a new brand of rice that literally does not just that has all these three things that I've just
Yes.
talked about. This sounds like something that you'll be interested in. I'm going to put a link down below. You can click or you can send me a message or something. We're going to get this. And by the way, this is absolutely free. I just wanted to come in here and share this. What have I just done? I've done a hook. If you've ever eaten rice, you might want to wait for
Yeah.
this one, or you might want to take a listen. I've done the content. I've given three things, blah blah blah, what. And then at the end, what have I done? I've given a call to action, a definite call to action, and I've told the audience what to do. It's the same with comedians. Do you ever realize that most of the comedians who do prank videos, They start off with the climax of the
Yeah,
prank.
yeah, 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 yeah. What is going to happen?
That's good. So what do? They go blah 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 blah, and then somebody shouting, "No, no, no! Why did you do
Yeah.
this to me?" Bah! What do? How it started?
Wait for
How it
it.
started? Wait for it. So what have they done? That's the hook. And most of us are because we want to
Yeah,
see
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
climax
yeah.
moment. And then after that, what do? They go to the content. So guys, today we're going to be pranking King
Hmm.
Obed. He's inside there. He does not know. He has no idea that we are coming. We've set up the camera there. We've set up the
Yeah.
camera here. And King Obed is inside there. We're going to be pranking him. What's that? That's the
Yes.
content. And then they move on to the prank. At the end, what do they say? Guys, if you like this video, like and share. Comment down below. Where are you watching from? That's a call to
Yes.
action. So if you ask me, the trend that I'm seeing right now in the space is a hook, the content, and the call to action.
Okay. The hook, the content, and the call to action. So this
Yes.
is what is going to put you out there, regardless of whatever you want to put out there. If
Whatever whatever content, listen to me. Whatever content you're creating right now, and at the club, so it's interesting. We have a video model in the club, and I teach them the hook content, the hook content, the call to
yeah,
action strategy, and I say to them, record videos and send to me. Let me look at it using this strategy. And some of them have fashion brands, some of them are writers. I'll give you an example. There's this guy who writes in the club, and he helps people to write maybe poems and all of that and do their writings. I said to him, I say, hey, look, record a video with the same thing. And what's your video going to say? What's up, guys? If you've ever wanted to write a piece of content and you find it very difficult, please take a seat for this. What happens? If you've tried to write a piece of content and you find it difficult, you take a
yeah.
seat. My name is Russell. And for those of you who might not know, let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Russell. And the last couple of years, literally, I've helped hundreds of people to write pieces of content, whether it's for people on their birthdays, whether it's for their loved ones on Valentine's Day, blah, 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 all of that, boom, 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 content. I just wanted to come in here because later this month, I'm trying to help the next 10 people, and I have some space in my hands. I wanted to help the next 10 people with their content. And if this sounds like something that you've been interested in, please just drop a comment just say comment down below. Just type the word content, and then I'll reach out to you and we start
Wow.
talking. What have I just
Yeah.
done?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah. You've
created
created
content.
content and you've hooked people onto your content.
It's the same. I could give you another example. Should
Yeah.
I go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fashion.
We want
Fashion.
more example, more varieties, so people could pick
Good.
from.
Yeah, let me give you
Hmm.
fashion. What's up, guys? All my ladies out there, if you want a dress that makes you look sexy, succulent, and really nice and makes you look really attractive, by the way, what have I just done in that
Wow.
space? I've used the words that people
Perfectly
love.
describe
I've used the
whatever
words
they
which
want to go for.
ladies
I want something that is sexy, that's attractive, that is beautiful, that is that.
good. So if I was talking to men, what are the words I
Yeah.
will use? Muscular, handsome,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
Confident, right? So that might be another tip within the
Yes.
example. You speak the language of your audience. But what's up, guys? If you're a lady and you want a dress that makes you look sexy, clean, neat, decent, and at least show some of those your curvy parts, listen, we've got some new stocks. Let me show this to you. Look, we just brought this right now. They imported from this, and then I'll show it up. I said, listen, right now, for the first 5 people that want this, we're going to ship. Shipping is
Yeah.
absolutely free. Down below, I'm going to put a WhatsApp number. Just click it and send me a message and say free so that we know that you're coming from this particular video. Send me a message on WhatsApp and say free. And we're going to talk about the price and we send this to you. I've just created content for
Great,
fashion.
great. This is very elaborate and extensive because we just pick the phone, we just say things we have to say, and most of the times, I think the bigger picture for us is that we are more focused on ourselves rather than
Yes,
having the interest of the listener or the viewer at heart. And
absolutely. Yeah,
when the person comes, because when the person comes and the video is just about yourself, he's not interested in you.
hmm,
He's interested in himself or herself. So if you are not
true,
speaking his or her language, the person will move off. And I think that is where
true.
the key thing of the who comes in for you to be able to draw,
You
yeah,
nail it
yeah,
on the head.
draw people to,
Yeah, you nail it on the head. The thing I always say to myself is people are always asking themselves, what's in
yeah,
it for
yeah,
me?
yeah, yeah,
And it is the
yeah,
same with what I sales, what I and I tell you how this works. Even if you have a girlfriend, I can't even stress this enough. This works with my team, it works with my girl, it works with my parents, it works with if I'm trying to get my girl to do something. Let's say for example, babe, I don't think you should go here. The reason why I don't think you should go here is because I'm trying to build a really good relationship with you. I don't think that this is going to
Yeah.
be beneficial for our relationship. And look at you. I really love you. I really want to build this relationship with you. So going here is going to make X and Y. And I'm just, to be honest, I don't think that this is good for our
Hmm.
relationship. What happens? What's in it for us? Because she wants to build that relationship. But if I go, oh, don't go there because I don't like
Yes.
it.
It's
Oh,
it's
now
more
you're
of
being
you. It's not
toxic.
about her.
Yeah. Now you're being toxic. And it's the same. Let me flip the script. When I talk to my team, I say to them, hey, look, if you're going to be working with me for the next 1 year, what I want you to think about is when you leave this place, what is the thing you have improved in your
Hmm.
own self? So when I talk to you about being disciplined, when I talk to you about turning on things on time, sending in projects on time, I'm saying this because this discipline that you build at this workplace is going to spread up to different facets of your life. So when I say to you, we have a call by 8 a.m., as much as it is your job that you have to be here, I want you to also see this as it is for you. It is you
Yeah.
building yourself, that
Yeah.
discipline. So tomorrow, 8 a.m., we have a call. And please try your best to be here. Right. So,
It's really the icing on the cake, because whatever you do, because you realize that you've put in the energy, everything, you set the proper cameras, the lighting, you
mhm,
spent huge sums of money in this production, and then you go and and then at the end of the day, it's just like one view, two views, and starts, and that is where the
yeah,
heartbreak starts setting in. It's like
yeah,
now
true.
it means whatever you are doing more or less is not relevant, right? And you realize
Mm,
that even those people like who are even closer to you are not even watching it. So now it
true.
helps you to just keep asking questions. Are you doing the right thing? Is it the right
Hmm.
content that you are
Hmm.
putting out there, or is it just about yourself? So this is something that all creators are supposed to take into consideration. If you are new, if you are old, or you've been in the game for far too long, it's these are things that
Yeah,
keeps you running and stuff. Yeah,
totally
is
agree.
is
Yeah.
is AI coming to take off everything?
I would say no.
And are you part of those who think that content creators are now lazy because there's AI?
I would just say that they're taking more advantage of it, right? Because, and I will tell you why I say no. So it's interesting. As part of the Smart Club, we have a model called AI
Mhm.
copywriting. And I was actually just teaching this model because we have sessions every Sunday. So I was teaching this model just last Sunday, just this two
Yeah.
days ago. So with AI copywriting, the idea is we're using ChatGPT and teaching them how to prompt the right way, but not just prompting the way
Yeah.
everybody
Yeah.
prompts, right? It is like prompting in the sense of I want to create specific content. And the idea is that they could use 15 minutes to create content. Usually, especially with the right prompts that we
Mhm.
show them, but usually this is a process that would literally take about maybe like 2 hours, 3 hours to come out with the right piece of content. So when you think about AI taking our jobs, it's not that AI is going to replace your job, because if AI has to write a piece of content for Arrey Bate, who is going to ask it the questions to write for Arrey Bate? It's a human.
Yeah.
Who is going to prove the like, because at the end of the day there has to be a human
Yeah.
touch
Yeah.
on it. Who's going to
Yeah.
prove the content that it
Yeah.
has generated, right? So AI is not taking our jobs. AI is helping. Guaranteed it might take away the jobs, especially of the people who are either not upskilling or understanding where the world is
Mhm.
going. But the whole idea is that right now you see that the commodity of the service is kind of being dropped, but also what is increasing is like critical thinking, knowing how to ask, prompting. What is prompting? Prompting is literally asking the right questions and doing all of that. So I don't think AI is completely taking our jobs, right? There's another AI tool that we teach as part of the club, um, where whenever if I wanted to take down notes like this, I would literally speak to that tool, and then it's literally just writing and writing and sending down notes for us. But at the end of the day, somebody has to prove that
Okay.
content,
Yeah.
right? So AI is not literally taking our jobs; it's making jobs way easier for us, and the people who upskill with it are still going to find themselves
So
secure.
regardless of whatever AI does, there's that human touch there, because yeah, you
It's a
have
human
authority
touch,
over it
definitely.
because it produces the content, right? You have to scale the
Yeah.
content. You have to, take out whatever is not necessary and stuff, and shape it to make it your work. It's not a matter of.
Yeah. And the reason, yes, and the reason why I say so, because somebody might be going, Array, but you don't understand the context of where I am right now. That's why you're saying this. But the reason I say this is because the sad reality is that regardless of what you choose to do, AI will
Yeah,
still take over.
yeah,
Does that
yeah.
make sense? It's already coming, it's already here. And so, what I always say to people is about you thinking about how to innovate with the process rather than you crying, oh, AI is going to take away my job. How about I figure out where AI is going to with my
Hmm.
role? So, to anyone watching this, an action step is go to Google, and I want you to Google search top 5 AI tools for blank. Fill in your niche
Okay,
there. And I want you to go and sign up on those 5 AI tools and start to use them and start to play around them, right? It's one of the things we do at the Smart Club. I said to everyone in the club, whatever industry you are, top 5 AI tools for this, top 5 AI tools for content
okay,
creators, top 5 AI tools for this. Go and sign up to those tools. Most of them are free. They have free trials, free versions. Literally go and sign up and start using them, start playing around, because a lot of people be like, AI is coming, you have to learn this. And also, that's the other thing we're talking about. There's a bunch of
hmm,
knowledge. Everybody's talking about an AI tool
yeah.
right now, but you have to shun the noise. Top 5 AI tools for this. Go and start to play around those five. And then you realize that you are placed, you're going to be in a better place rather than just sitting down and complaining. Secure yourself a better future by at least starting to implement
Wow.
that.
Wow. Where do you see your industry heading to in the next maybe few years, 2 or 3, 5 years, 10 years? Where do we see the RB podcast, RB marketing, smart club? Where do you see yourself in the next few years to come?
My goal ultimately is to grow the podcast to have it on TV
Okay.
stations. And I'm going to evolve that. My idea is to evolve it into a more sophisticated, if possible, get a TV show for
Okay.
it. So that's where I'm looking at things in the near future. As concerns the other things, if I'm being honest with myself, I don't know how to set really huge goals. I don't think that I do well with
Yeah.
setting goals. I just want to make more money.
I know. And even making more money is a goal in itself. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a
let's
goal
put
in
it that
itself.
way. But I don't know how to set goals and be like, I want, like, for example, like I just said with the
Hmm.
podcast, my idea is I want to get it on TV stations, and I want to possibly get a show for it. That's like the one thing I'm looking
Yeah.
forward towards. But with the other things, if you ask me where I want to be, I'm just like, I don't know, because I just want more money.
Okay.
As long as I'm making that money the right way and I'm still being able to impact people's lives, I'm good. I'm good, to
Okay.
be honest. I said to somebody the other time, I said, if I had to stop here, I would do anything that I tried, in the sense of maybe I've had a little sense of fulfillment, and I'm trying to find also that fulfillment in the journey. It's not like I've done anything that is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying. I've
Yeah.
done it,
Yeah.
but I've, even if I end here, I've tried. There's that sense of fulfillment. So where I see myself making more money, bro.
Great. Great. Making more money, making more impact. Changing lives and changing the
Yeah,
narrative. And I think that yeah,
exactly.
I've met you once, and when for me, I take personal interest in people. And when I
Right.
see people who align with what I want to do, I'm doing, I follow them with all my heart. And if you could see,
Mm,
I've been following you everywhere, social media, all the social media platforms. And when I could see, I follow the stories you are carrying, the interviews you are carrying about,
mm,
and the energy and the zeal with which you are doing everything. And I could see
yeah,
that yes,
yeah,
it's really great. How important is networking and building a community in everything we are doing in social media creation, content
really,
creation, training people, mentoring people, and everything? How's that thing? You know, how does that thing really play a
really,
role?
yeah.
Networking, connection, building that community.
Right. That's really, really, really good question. And I think for anyone watching this, I try to think about networking as a triangle for me,
Okay.
right? So at the top of the triangle, let's put it this way, the top of the triangle is where you meet the
Okay.
people,
Hmm.
right? At the bottom to the left side is your brand you're building or the thing
Or the
you're doing.
brand.
Yes, or what you're
Okay.
building,
Okay.
right? The reason is because when you go out there and meet these people, you're talking
Hmm.
to them, They will look you up and see what you've
What you
been
have been doing.
doing and see what you've been
Yes.
up to. And then at this other bottom, I see it as what I have to offer,
Okay.
because there's no networking when you're not offering
Okay.
something,
There's
right?
no
I can tell you
networking
for
when you are
sure.
not offering something.
Yeah, you are literally just going to rip
Okay.
off them. That's not networking. Is I come and see you, we talk, I have something to offer you, you have something to offer me. Whether it's just words or whether it's just your knowledge,
Yeah.
right? Think about it this way. I meet someone that I'm very, very much interested in, and I would like to connect with him. We exchange contacts at
Yeah.
an event, and I write to him and say, "Hey, I was just going through your social media and I saw X and Y. I wanted to let you know there's this new tool that you could literally check out. Anyway, just wanted to say, have a good week ahead. Someday, check out that tool." What happens? Wow, Array recommended this to me.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
you see what
Yeah.
I mean? So some people, I might even talk about, hey, have something to offer. And somebody's going, I don't have money, I don't have this. But what have I just done? I've just
Offered for
offered
free. Yeah.
something, right?
Just check it out. Yeah.
Good. Check it out. And then they'll come back, hey, Array, use that tool. It went really well. Oh, that's cool. I'm like, how did you know about this tool? I mean, I'm in the space. You know what space? I'm literally in the space. Like I host the podcast as well as I
Oh
run the
wow.
marketing. Oh wow, tell me more. Right? Do you see what I mean? And then sometimes because you say do something like that, they'll go, "Oh, actually, yeah, I was just looking on your social media. I saw you posted this, or you did X and Y, or you actually met
Hmm.
this person, right?" And so networking is very important. But as much as you're going out there to network, build that triangle for yourself. Number one is where you're meeting the
Okay.
people, but number two is you have to make sure that as you're networking, at least put some content out there by yourself. And I promise you, it doesn't matter whether you have views or you don't have views, because someone might be sitting here and is going, all right, but I don't have views on my own social media. What does that mean? And the rest, right? And then at the other side, have something that you're offering, have something that you're offering to them. So if you do those three things, I think networking is going to make way more sense for you. You will build a wider community, and yeah, and all of that. And I can tell you for certainty, even with the podcast, because I've had somebody on, somebody will just come and look, oh, and go, oh yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
this person on
Yeah.
the podcast. Yeah, let me come. There's a Cameroonian celebrity that I reached out to just this weekend, and I know very well for a fact that's because I had somebody else
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she
Yeah.
came,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
she's deciding that she's going to
And
come.
then they'll decide
But there
who
was
are
the other
you.
person there.
They'll try to find your background. Who are you? What have you done and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. But the other person, and fun fact, the person who connected me to the first guy or the celebrity guy that I content creator that I interviewed was a friend who I met a while back. We've been talking, I've been helping her with other things, and we've just been relating. And then one time she said, oh, you want to interview this person? I have his contact.
Is
I
it
said,
Auntie
okay.
Felicia?
Wow, wow, Auntie Felicia, yeah. Oh, you want to interview Auntie
Yeah.
Felicia? I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how to reach out to him. Okay, don't worry. Let me write to him
Wow.
and say that, Array. So she wrote to him, and then Auntie Felicia said, oh, Array, I've heard of him. Send my
Wow.
number. Yeah,
Wow. Wow.
like that's
The
it.
power of networking.
But
Wow.
you get the point. So the moment I wrote to him, he was like, oh, yeah, sure, Array, let's do it. I haven't done interviews in a while, but I'm going to do this one. And then we accepted. We went and did the interview. Um, but number one, you see that coming back to our triangle, I had pieces of content out there that even when the friend wrote to him
You go and
about
check.
me, by the way, for anybody watching this, Auntie Felicia is a comedian. So the Auntie Felicia is just a name, but it's a male comedian. But when they wrote to him, because I've been creating
Yeah.
pieces of content and I've been creating a brand, that one was speaking up for me. But also, I had something to offer. When we got on call, we started talking a few things, and then there was something else that we even talked about. He was still like, "Oh, that's cool. That's helpful. That's this." And then later on, we started to talk backstage a bit. But yeah, because it was something. So that's how I think about networking.
Nice one. Nice one. So how you meet the people, the brand, and then what you have to offer.
Exactly.
Do you
Exactly.
believe in channels collaborating? Like,
Yes, a lot, because I think that is
is it
very important, very, very
okay?
important. You feed off different
Yeah.
people's energies, and also you feed. I mean, which is the reason why I'm here on this podcast. I said to you when you said to me, "Let's do a podcast," I'm like 1,000%. Let's go, and I'll definitely take this clip. I'll take one or two clips from it, and I'll go and post on my
Yes.
social media. Say, "Hey, check out King Obed podcast." Yeah, so yeah, that's and the same. Somebody will listen to this now and go, Ari seems to
Yeah.
know what
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Let me check him
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely believe
Okay.
in that.
Great. Great. So how do you balance work, personal life, and everything you have been doing since?
You ask you ask really good questions. You ask really good
Thank
questions, I
you.
have to
Thank you.
say.
Thank you.
And they're very very pertinent questions that sometimes I have to think about it because I know that people who are watching this they are also mental health
Yeah, yeah,
specialists here. They're going to tell me I'm not balancing it the right
yeah.
way. If I'm being honest, I don't know how to balance work life and personal life. That's because I'm trying to find passion, and to be honest, I just work till I can't, right? And then the days when I want to rest, I just rest till I want to rest. And then what I try to do, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But what I try to do is that when I'm resting, even when I'm resting, I think I'm working.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm eating, I'm literally watching a video about something that I want to learn. So in my phone, I have a notepad, right? So that notepad, and this might be, even if this is the last thing I
Yeah.
say on this podcast, someone should pick this out. My notepad, you can see I'm always writing notes, but I have a specific note in there. That notepad is whenever I think I don't know
Mm-hmm.
something or something that I want to learn, I go in there and I write it down.
Okay. To-do
All right.
list.
It's like a to-do list for myself, the things that I want to know,
Okay.
I want to learn, right? Or maybe something that I know I'm not very tough in, I want to improve
Yeah.
my skills on it. So if I have some free space, for example, when I'm eating, I'm a slow eater, I might spend about 30 minutes eating. I'll go to that to-do list, and from that to-do list, I will look for one thing, and I go to YouTube and I'm watching a video about
Okay.
that thing. If I'm traveling and know this, oh, I'm trying to improve on this, I will go to that to-do list. I look for one thing and I'm watching a video
Wow.
about that thing. So that way, my free time, even if I want to watch a movie, I'll go to that to-do list. I look for a movie that maybe can
Yeah.
relate to that. That way, my free time is being used judiciously. But if you ask me how I balance work life and personal life, I don't. If I just make free time, I just go out. I have time with my woman. We enjoy, come back, talk to family, pop out, come back, sit down, work. Just I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'll learn.
We keep learning. We keep learning. We keep learning. That has been very good and very extensive and elaborative on everything that you've touched on. And I think that yes, you are doing so well with so finally the stuffs you are into, can you take a bit of time to share so that my viewers, audience can also, if any of them have interest, they can just join you for you to train them. Those who are into
Right.
content creation, for them to sharpen their skills and everything that they want to do.
Mhm. Right. So I'll just talk about two of the most important things that I'm
Yeah.
working on right now. Number one is a podcast. So on DRB, the podcast, which is why I'm here, which is how I even connected with King Obed. On DRB, the podcast, I speak to people who have unique stories. It's a life and business
Yes.
podcast. For example, one of the people I spoke to is a 26-year-old in Kenya who is going in for president. I just wanted to know what motivated, and he's a
Yeah, I think
barber.
it's one of the
He pays
earlier interviews that
one of
yeah,
the
yeah,
first,
yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
the
yeah.
first
One of them.
episode. Oh, you're
Oh yeah, I've
following.
been
Oh my
following.
God, King Obed, you're fire.
I remember everywhere. Anything. Yeah. I've been following.
Yeah, so for example, I spoke to him. I spoke to another couple who have been married for 35 years. They have about 4 kids. The eldest is
Those who train
27.
their
They
kids in
homeschool.
home
Yes,
training, homeschool. Yeah.
homeschooled all of their kids. I spoke to another one was one guy. So Shakira released a song, a World Cup song in
Yeah.
2026,
Yeah.
Zamina Amina, and the song came under copyright claims. I spoke to the guy who was in charge of the copyright case. Another one, I spoke to one other guy who it was a very interesting story on how he manages grief, because the very time when he got his divorce was the very time he lost his sister of cancer, and was the very time he had an immigration issue in the US. How he's managing grief. We're talking to just interesting people, so you could check out the podcast. That's number one. And then number two, and really important, is a smart club. So this is going to be the third year that I am hosting the
Okay.
smart club. What is a smart club? It is my private mentorship group for friends who want to learn a digital marketing skill, specifically digital marketing. So I don't claim to
Yeah.
know everything. If you're like, hey Array, how do I do cyber security? Yes, it's an online thing, but that's not my specialty. But when it comes to digital marketing, that's what the smart club is about. So three classes of people, whether your goal is to become a freelancer, whether your goal is to get a job in digital marketing, or whether your goal is to just learn those skills and build your personal brand. That's exactly what you're going to learn from the smart club. So yes, possibly down below there might be links to that, but yes, you can listen to the podcast on YouTube at DRB the podcast, or you can join the Smart Club and build your digital marketing skills with us for at least the next couple of
Great.
months.
Yes, I'm going to share all the links below and everything, all in the description box, everything that you said, and to for them to connect to you, because I believe that you are a walking knowledge and a walking book and a walking encyclopedia where we need to tap from you. So thank you very much for coming on the King Obed podcast. It's been a great, conversation, great discussion that we've had, and everything that you said, I know people will learn and will take a lot of things, a lot of lessons from them for us to be able to go out, make the contents, generate some income, build some side houses, and potentially into make something bigger and greater as we move on. So thank you
Yeah.
very much for coming, and then we really really appreciate your presence on the King Obed podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I really do want to appreciate you first, even for the energy from day one when we connected, just having the conversations with you. You know, sometimes you have conversation with people and you think it's just for you
Yeah.
or you think you're just helping out, but just having the conversations with you, sometimes it just makes me reflect and I'm learning some other things. And then definitely, even the questions that you've asked here on the podcast, some of the questions I've not had anyone ask me before, and I have to go back and think about how you worded them.
Yeah.
And I'm very reflective, so I know that I'll think about
Okay.
this
Yeah.
conversation again. So I want to thank you even for that energy, and hopefully, this has been very good content as well for the audience and for the people who have listened to this. So, man, I really do appreciate it. And by the way, I'm going over your book.
Oh, great,
So
great, great, great.
yeah, yeah,
After you are done, let me know the review.
I
Yeah,
will
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure. I
yeah,
have it on
yeah.
my to-do
And
list.
I was going to download your the soft copy. Oh, nice, nice, nice. The soft copy of your book as well. How to make
Okay,
money, build relationship with social media.
I'd stop selling
Oh,
it by
really?
the way.
But I saw like download a free soft copy or something. Yeah, yeah,
I stopped selling it because when I wrote that book about four,
yeah, in
5 years
2019.
ago, and the support. I mean, you're an author,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
understand this. When you grow to a certain point, it's not that knowledge is useless, but it's just I feel like I've beat that, and I just don't want to put that
Yeah,
out
yeah, yeah.
again.
It looks so, but there's nothing like little knowledge. People will still need to, because
Yeah.
whatever it is, somebody is always starting, right? So somebody you started from somewhere, and somebody will need to know
Mhm.
where you started from, how you started it. For when the person gets to your level, and then the person then you know. So it's
Yeah.
always like that. It's good. Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, yeah,
Sure. I do
yeah. So
appreciate you,
thank
man,
you.
and thank you for bringing
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
energy
yeah,
that you
yeah,
bring.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So thank you, listeners, viewers, for listening to the King Obed podcast. It's been a really great session with Arrey Bate, the man of the moment. Yeah, so subscribe to the podcast, watch, listen. We are on YouTube. You can listen on Apple, you can listen on Spotify, and all the various platforms. So until we meet again, the next episode. Bye bye.